Yeah, fire up the grill, crank the speakers loud. Saturdays feel holy in this college crowd. Seth and James on the mic, preaching gospel truth. Talking rivalries, legends, red, black, gold, and blue. From Death Valley Lights to the Camp Randall Code. They're telling stories that never get old. Ain't no bench warm hearts on the show tonight. They're walking on proud on the stadium lights. They're the preferred walk on. No scholarship, still putting it on. From the church of tailgate, hands in the air.
Welcome to the Preferred Walk-On Show. I'm your host, Seth Saunders, joined by a very special guest co-host today. He is the host of Locked On Gamecocks, the co-host of the Fourth and Wrong podcast, a writer for LouisianaSports.net, and most importantly, one of the 5 greatest athletes ever to come out of Parkview High School. Go Panthers. My good buddy, Mr. Chris Marler. What's up, brother?
Yeah, self-proclaimed. For sure. Self-proclaimed for sure. Top 5. I appreciate that more than anything else you said. That's that. I might have to put that in my Twitter byline.
I am shocked that it's not already there, if I'm being candid with you. I think that's a big miss on your part.
That's fair. Yeah, man, I'm excited. This should be a fun weekend. I think it's one of those things I think we're going to get out of the gates early, and it'll be really fun. And then the first 2 games should be awesome. The second 2 will probably suck. Probably some money to be made in those games. But I'm excited, man. Tomorrow should be a really fun day.
Yeah, so let's start there, right? And I kind of want to go backwards with you. And part of the reason I want to go backwards with you is let's start with this JMU-Oregon game on Saturday night. And the reason I want to start here is the guys at JMU Sports News, you are very familiar with landing a tweet that hits. Let's just say it that way, okay? With great humor. And these boys this past 7 to 10 days have just been lighting it up. They have been hilarious and outstanding, and I just find it such a fun subplot to this game of them kind of making light of this whole G5 doesn't belong deal and flipping it back on Oregon. So yeah, I just want to get your thoughts on that first because I know you likely appreciate their efforts these past 10 days.
Generational run. Just a generational run that they're on right now. It's awesome. I think it's great for the sport that they're trying to promote it. I don't know how much of a dent it's made in the perception of this game. I know the Vegas money has gone up in favor of Oregon. I don't think that's a huge question mark. I'm all for the G5 participation in the playoff if there's one team. This year's a little bit tough because there's 2 teams. I don't know which one's more deserving. I will tell you this, the JMU hate is not something that I will be participating in. Because we've already seen Tulane, Ole Miss once, and it was a bloodbath then. It'll probably be a bloodbath all over again. So I'm excited for the JMU. I'm excited for their fans to go out there. This is a game that I wish was not a home game. Like I wish this was a Cotton Bowl or a game out in Tempe, and you get to see JMU fans travel and experience how exciting the playoff can be. But that's going to be a fun environment for sure,
dude. Autzon's going to be incredible. And then, I mean, this is what I got to ask you too. And we will talk about the football game, but there are just things that when I was previewing this and getting ready for us to chat, I thought these are things Chris will appreciate the way I appreciate them. Can we talk about Oregon's kicker, Atticus Sappington? Number one, how is he not playing for an SEC school? And number 2, what are the odds that he wears a bow tie underneath the uniform each week when he kicks?
That man was not born with an umbilical cord. He was born with an ascot that was an umbilical cord. I mean, that is it had to be made of silk and it had to be made of paisley design. It was like that guy's name. I've seen him for the past couple of years. That is incredible. That's an incredible name. He sounds like a Disney villain for sure. Also pretty good kicker. So
yes.
He's
really
been
good.
very good.
Yeah, the fact that he is not kicking for Ole Miss just seems like the biggest whiff in the history of recruiting and NIL and all the things, right? Like that is the perfect cultural mix. So yeah, him walking into the game with a seersucker suit just seems right on brand. So yeah.
It's almost too on the nose if he was kicking for Ole Miss.
Yeah, like he came out of Central Casting literally.
Right.
Yeah. So anyways, man, I just found that funny. Another thing I have loved about this Oregon team that I know you'll appreciate is, dude, this cat Bryce Betcher. All right. Number 1, from our perspective, walk on, which, hey, we love that. Number 2, man, dude, he's a legitimate ball player. Like outstanding center fielder and playing both at a super high level. Draft pick for Major League Baseball. Dude, I think he's going to have every chance to play in the NFL too. He's had a fantastic year, leads that defense. And here's what I find interesting about this game. If things go like they want it to, they've got to run the football. And I just feel like that's going to be a difficult hill to climb for them against this Oregon defense, number one, because I think the edge speed is going to be so much better for Oregon. However, JMU's running back is none other than Wayne Knight. So every time he does something, I proclaim as loudly as possible, Newman! And nobody in these present generations seems to catch that, and it really bothers me, Chris, that
I
is
got
not.
it immediately.
Yes, see, that's because you're old like me.
Yeah. No, I think that the thing that JMU is going to have a hard time with, if this was a Oregon team from a couple years ago, where you're talking about they have some of the same types of athletes that like former Pac-12 teams had, you know what I mean? Which isn't like it's not trying to be an insult to Pac-12 teams, but it's just a different athlete than what some of the other teams have had. What you've seen, I think, is this like everyone wants to talk about how the NIL has changed everything. It's like, oh well, and you can tell I'm old because I said the NIL. And it's just like going to the Walmart or the Kroger. But the idea that like Ohio State has gotten really, really good, teams like Notre Dame have gotten really, really good, Oregon they've gotten really, really good. Part of that is the NIL, but part of it is also the fact that you have now entered this like phase of roster building where you are building things from the inside out like SEC teams have been built for decades. And Oregon's done a better job of that, I think, than anyone else, which is like they know that on the defensive line, you need to have a bunch of single-digit dudes is what I usually call them, because they are monster athletes wearing numbers that are usually for receivers and running backs, and they are very, very good. And you've seen this over and over, like at Georgia, you've seen it in Alabama back in the day, you see it on Ole Miss last year. But this is, I think, the hardest thing for JMU is not going to be able, like, they'll come out with some creative plays, they'll come out fired up, and I think they'll try to do their best to keep it close early, but it's a different type of athlete at 300 pounds. And that is where I think this game is won and lost, and a lot of these games are won and lost, because when you got dudes that are 300 pounds and they're still moving under sub 5, 40-yard dashes, they're able to sit there and be like very, very quick and nimble on their feet, go sideline to sideline. The only person that comes to my head whenever I is Jordan Davis, who's a unicorn when it comes to that. So there's not a lot of Jordan Davises out there, but that type of athlete, I think, is going to be something JMU has not seen this year.
Yeah, it seems prime for a game where a guy like Bear Alexander, to your point, just really kind of controls tempo and then allows their second level on defense to roam and do whatever they want to do. And so, yeah, man, I just have a hard time with it. And I think the thing, too, is that if you have watched JMU, they can get vertical, yes, but them throwing the football is not what they're built on and not what they're supposed to do. And I think in this game, that's the only way to do it, right? And so I just don't know. Now, look, what do you think about the number? Or what do you think about something if I was wanting to lay something on this game? Where's somewhere where I could make a smart bet, make some money?
I'm all over the first half bets on most of these games this weekend. I think these two games, I think you're going to see, and I see these two, I mean the last two with Oregon and I think Ole Miss especially. But Oregon, the number's at 10.5. Oregon's one of the best offensive teams in the country in first half scoring. They're one of the best defenses in first half scoring defense. I don't see JMU outside of when they're on script having a ton of luck. I think my favorite number here is 20.5. I think Oregon covers this game easily. I think that's easy. 10.5 in the first half for them is also something I like a lot, because I think you're going to also have an Oregon team that is coming off a pretty long break. Didn't play in the conference championship game, and they're coming into a game too where they have maybe outside of Kirby Smart the best motivator of any team in the playoff. Like I love Elko. I keep saying he's going to have a halftime speech this week that'll probably tear the paint off the walls. I think that Kirby is obviously the best motivator. Where did he get that, or where did Lanning get that from Kirby Smart? This is a team that was number 1 in the country last year, 13-0, going into the first round of their playoff game in the Rose Bowl, and fell flat on their face. And they cannot afford to do that against a team that hardly anybody thinks deserves to even be in the field outside of being a charity case. So I think they come in and run them out of the building pretty quickly.
Yeah, man. God, I'm glad you bring up Dan Lanning. There's not really anybody in the country that I like much better, right? Like if you were picking people to lead your program, he's in the top 2. I mean, yeah, for me, it would be him and Kirby if you could start from scratch. I just love the way they lead, love it. And look, if we're being honest, I probably got to put Coach Signetti in that framework too, just because of what he's done at a program like Indiana. I mean, if you can go there and win essentially with half your roster being old JMU guys, dude, you got something going on. So those are 3 guys
I like
really
the guy that's 5-1 against those top 2 guys.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. He's got to stay in Tuscaloosa, though.
He is going to stay in Tuscaloosa. It's so funny to me watching the Michigan thing, because it's like, I think, not to get off topic, but it's such a topical and relevant conversation.
Yeah.
I noticed this morning with Tom Fernelli going on CBS and talking about it. It's like I've heard from people close to the program that like the whole thing is, listen, if he's on the hot seat, he doesn't want to spend the entire off season on the hot seat. I think the hot seat conversation died when they beat Auburn, because if any, like Atlanta was a very big disappointment, and it was very embarrassing if you're an Alabama fan or if you're on the Alabama team or whatever. At the same time, very hard to beat a team twice in the same year, especially when that team is Georgia and Kirby Smart. I don't know anybody that wants to sign up and play Georgia twice in a year. Most teams don't want to do it once. And I think him getting past Auburn, getting to 10-2 with all the doubt and all that kind of stuff that's happened, I don't think there's a lot. Like, I don't listen to Paul Feinbaum unless I'm on the show. I love Paul to death. It's not like a shot at him, but like unless it's Paul Feinbaum callers that are just delusional in general, just for the sake of being delusional, I don't see a lot of logical Alabama fans and the ones that move the money around that program that are saying they're calling for his head. Now, we'll see what happens on Friday, but I have a hard time believing it's going to be anything bad like that.
Well, and this is a good point, and let's pivot on that, because here's my thing with, okay, number one, if he does leave there or if they force him out, whichever it is, who the hell do you go get, right? So that's number one. Number two, why in the hell would you leave Tuscaloosa to go to Ann Arbor and that hot mess they got going on there right now? Like, I just none of it adds for me. And so I don't see
the thing
either.
too about Michigan is that I think I read an article about this, and part of it was saying that when the Penn State rumors happened, I was like, I don't believe that at all. Like, I just don't believe it at all. There was no one credible that was reporting there were actual ties to them being associated. His name was associated. I'm sure that Penn State, if they're drawing up a name of people that were available they want to go after, then they'd be on it. Michigan, I think, is a little bit different, because Michigan has found themselves in a PR nightmare, in a situation where they're on a very slippery slope, where their program could be falling apart at the seams if they don't make the right hire. So Michigan has two things that I think a lot of other programs don't have, and that is desperation and a ton of money. And that's a scary thing for most people. But here's the other part with Michigan. One, couldn't happen to a worse group of people, so I'm so happy that it's happening. Two, you want to talk about a program that looks down their nose at people all the time about how great they are. Oh, Michigan, man, and all that kind of crap. I will guarantee you, and I don't love talking in hypotheticals unless it's about my weight, but I would guarantee you that this whole thing would have never come to light if they beat Ohio State and they were in the playoff, like, at all. They sat on it for over a month. And so now if you're telling me that Kalen DeBoer is going to be leaving Tuscaloosa to go to Michigan, I fully believe that Michigan wants to hire Kalen DeBoer 1,000%. And again, money and desperation, they have those two things in spades more than anyone else in the country right now. But the other part is, I think if you're Greg Byrne, you know what you just said, which is, who the hell are you going to go hire? You can't allow that to happen. Yeah. So squash it immediately. And I think he did. From what I was told, the boosters were like within 24 hours, like, we'll match whatever they have plus more, and he needs to stay here. And that's how Alabama's going to move in this thing. The last thing I'll say too about with Michigan is, or with DeBoer going to Michigan, the idea that he's tired and the natives are restless and all that kind of crap, I think that that's a really good talking point for Alabama and their fans 20 years ago, maybe even 15 years ago. Sure. Like, maybe that's the case, and they're going to be so upset with whoever comes in after Saban. But I don't think the guy that decided to take on the challenge of coming in after Saban is all of a sudden scared of the challenge going into year 3 when he just went to the college football playoff.
Yeah. I mean, none of it makes much sense to me. And I think from a recruiting perspective, all the things, right? And like, that program has become now used to continuity, given Nick being there for so long and being so successful. So like, why are we trying to upset the apple cart on all that? So yeah, I'm with you on that. Well, look, let's talk about the Crimson Tide, okay? Yep. They got a big one at the Palace tomorrow night playing OU, rematch of this game earlier in the season. I'm real interested to get your take on this, because for me, I think it's a great matchup for the Tide. And if you look back at the game they played in the regular season, absent them turning the ball over 3 times, they win that football game. So I just think, here's the thing, right? OU cannot run the football. They really can't push it downfield in the passing game if they're going to receive any pressure, man. And I think they are going to have something dialed up for John Mateer all night. I just think OU is going to have problems scoring points. And I think Bama has enough weapons in the passing game to be successful. So where you sit on this?
Okay. Here's the thing, Seth. You know me very well. I don't like to get ahead of my skis when it comes to Alabama stuff. I feel like I know my lane, which is, I'm going to sit here and say there's no chance. There's no chance that they have a chance in this game. Like, how could they possibly do that? And there's a big part of me that wants to sit here and play that role and say, Oklahoma's beating their I can say ass. Yeah, they beat their ass last year. Norman, they beat him again this year. They all that kind of stuff. And I'll start by saying the positives. And like, I don't think I'm being a fan when I say this stuff. I'm being genuine 100%. I kept saying that I thought it was a really bad matchup for Bama the first time around. And part of that's because you just came off of a stint where you had 4 of your last 6 games were against ranked opponents, 4 in a row against top 25 teams. You won all 4 of those games. First team in SEC history to be able to win 4 of those in 4 consecutive weeks. Then you got to go on the road to South Carolina. You got a break. Then you play a massive rivalry game against LSU where they have nothing to lose. And also one of the most talented defenses and most talented rosters in the country, regardless of their schedule, or their record. Just ask Oklahoma. They were in a dogfight with them the very last game of the season to get to the playoff. Oklahoma's a very good football team. They have the best defense in the SEC. Like overall, I think Georgia's probably playing the best right now, but they had the best defense overall for the entire season. Maybe the best in the entire conference. They are in the entire country. Our Mason Thomas, not my Mason Thomas, but our Mason Thomas. That guy's awesome. He is a game wrecker. You saw it against Auburn. You saw it so many other times. You saw it against Tennessee this season where, he has turned games upside down because of how dominant he can be off the edge. I think he's going to give Bama a ton of fits. I think there's no team in the SEC, maybe even in the entire playoff, that is going to be able to mimic or try to mimic what Kirby Smart and Georgia did to Alabama in their last game out. I say all that to say all the positives, okay? But here's the thing. It's hard to beat a team twice. It's very hard to beat a team twice. Kalen DeBoer, this idea that Alabama, and I know I'm going to get a little long-winded here, but just bear with me. Alabama in this situation is playing under a coach who has been dominant against ranked teams throughout his entire career. Went 4-2 against ranked opponents this year. Everyone started to doubt them the moment they lost to Oklahoma and the Auburn game and all that kind of stuff. And now what's funny about all this to me is they got their ass handed to them against Georgia. I don't think they're good enough to beat Georgia. I don't think they're good enough to beat Indiana. I don't think they're good enough to beat Ohio State. We'll see on the other ones. But I do think it's very hard to beat a team twice. And in that first game, Alabama doubled them up on yardage, still couldn't run the ball, but doubled them up on yardage, had over 340 yards passing, and Ty Simpson was on his way to having what I think would have been a career game and possibly something that put him in Manhattan if things would have continued the way it did if they win that game. In Tuscaloosa, they came into that game and Alabama was plus 11 in turnovers, and it was the best mark in the entire SEC. There's 5 SEC teams in the playoff right now. Only one is in the positives in terms of turnover margin. It's Alabama. They had in that game, They had been even or better in all 9 of the games they played before Oklahoma. They went -3. 3 turnovers, 2 of them inside their own 30-yard line, and a missed 36-yard field goal. All those things happened. They lost by 2 points. Oklahoma doesn't have an offense that is scary. And I tell you what, even when the things that they are sometimes good at, Alabama's defense has been very, very good this season. And they were very, very good against Oklahoma the first time around. So you're asking Oklahoma to take on a different part of your identity. To win this game, I think you're asking Oklahoma to take on a different part of their identity that they have not taken on since maybe September when the schedule was a little bit weaker, which is go play great offense, play elite defense, but play great offense and go out there and win the ball game. Alabama knows who they are. You may not like who they are. You may want to sit here and say, oh, well, they barely escaped Auburn. I tell you what, guys, everyone barely escaped Auburn. They had 7 losses and 6 of them by 7 points or less. The highest margin of victory over Auburn this year was Georgia by 10. So, everyone had that happen. I love when people start doubting Alabama. I love it. I love it. I don't love that Vegas is doing it, and a 3-point swing over the last 24 hours is definitely upsetting, but it's hard to beat a team twice. And that game, when you went -3 in the turnover margin, if that's the blueprint for Oklahoma, there's no way in hell they are going to be able to replicate that blueprint and go out and beat them twice. I think Bama wins. I think it's the grossest game of the weekend, Seth. I think it's Iowa, Nebraska, but in crimson and cream and crimson and white. I think it's a 17-9 game, and Bama wins and then gets smoked by Indiana.
Let me ask you this, because I was thinking 2 things from watching them play in Atlanta. We saw each other at halftime and talked a little bit, but here was my thing. Well, I had one big takeaway from them offensively, and I had one takeaway from them defensively. Defensively, to your point, that's exactly right. That defense is plenty good at all 3 levels, okay? And, 3 short fields against Georgia to give up most of the points in that ballgame. And so it wasn't a defensive thing so much as it was a field position problem. And some of the decisions that were made as it pertains to that. So, I agree with you wholeheartedly on Alabama's defense. On the flip side, with Alabama's offense, what I have been surprised about, given their struggles running the football and given the weapons they have in the passing game, what I want to see is I want to see them use the short game more as an extension of the run game, because I think what then it can do is give them some more options in the mid-range and deep game. And dude, they got the weapons to do it. And like, why not utilize that? Why not try to get those guys in space and just get them on the edge? And so that's what I would like to see more of. I didn't think they did a good job of that at all against Georgia. And I think Georgia could have been susceptible to that. And so I would like to see that starting tomorrow night, just because, dude, you got to ride with your horses, and their horses are their wideouts.
I'm telling you right now, I think, well, the other part of that, too, you talk about the extension of the run game. The first part of that is who you hit on the tight ends. And Josh Cuevas has been out since the Oklahoma game, but Josh Cuevas is a guy that has 30 catches for 347 yards and four touchdowns. He's top 5 on the team in all those categories, 3rd on the team in touchdowns. And it's a guy that went up against Oklahoma last time and had 6 catches for 80 yards and 1 touchdown. And I look at that and say, sure, that Burton Venables is probably going to be able to find a way to scheme against that happening. But him and Danny Lewis both being back at tight end, I mean, like this team, I'm not going to sit here because I know how Georgia fans are, and I love them to death for it. And I'm not going to get into a thing about how they lost because of injuries, because that's not what happened against Georgia at all. I do think winning with the amount of injuries they had against Auburn was very, very impressive. And going on the road and winning the way they did, I thought was also very impressive. And people started scoffing at it for whatever reason. And I like, y'all go play at Jordan Hare then. If you think it's fun, then y'all go do it. Like, and I got a lot of other thoughts that are not suitable for work on that. But I think the other thing too, man, is the way that the offense against Georgia, it reminded me of like a girl that was like, I can't wear the same outfit twice. And it's like, you saw what worked against Georgia the first time around, and then you came out and you're like, no. I mean, they kept trying to force the run early on. I've also never seen a Bama team that has this much of a drop off from the 1 and 2 backs on the depth chart to 3 and 4, because you were down to your 3rd and 4th string running back. Couldn't hit him out of the backfield to save your life. They couldn't block, like they couldn't really run. I think you're going to see some more creative ways. And listen, here's the thing too. Ty Simpson threw the ball 46 times against Oklahoma in that game. Throw it 50. Like if you throw it 50 and you don't turn the ball over more than once, I think you win the game. And I'll tell you the other side of that too is, if you're going to ask John Mateer, based off the track record we have all seen, if you're going to ask him to go out there and not turn the ball over and throw the ball 30 times to beat you, because they don't run the ball well either, that's not a recipe for success. And I think that, like, again, you had a field goal, you had a punt return that you dropped inside your 30 with Ryan Williams back deep catching the punt return, which hadn't really happened all season. I didn't understand what that was about. And then you had a pick 6. That's 10 points right there. And you talk about like the short fields for Georgia. I don't see this being something where Georgia, it was like when Georgia got that pick and then they went down 14-0, it was like you could see what's happening. Like even on the block punt, you're like, oh boy. I don't see that happening again against Oklahoma. And at the very least, you get 4 starters back. Like, I mean, you get 4 starters back for this game.
Yeah, I think things shape up well for the Tide. I would be surprised. I'm not saying it won't happen. I'm just saying I'd be surprised if Boomer Center comes out on top. I want to talk to you about Miami A&M, and I want to talk to you about Tulane Ole Miss kind of in tandem to start, okay? And this is why. Because as I've watched A&M over the course of the year, watched Ole Miss over the course of the year, very similar in these aspects, right? Okay, both super dynamic quarterbacks that are so much fun to watch. But here's the other part about it. Both 7-1 in the SEC schedule. Both of them also played 6 of the 8 worst teams in the SEC. That seems interesting to me as it sets up them going into this tournament playing against top-level competition, right? Is do we actually know who they are? And the reason I ask that is because A&M's one loss to a Texas team that, let's just have an honest conversation, wasn't exactly stupendous this year.
No.
And then Ole Miss lost to Georgia, and look, I thought they looked outstanding most of that ball game. Outside of the fourth quarter where it looked like Trinidad hurried himself a little bit, missed some throws.
Yeah.
They looked awesome, okay? So I'm not saying the loss to Georgia is necessarily an indictment, but I do find it interesting as these two teams begin their playoff journeys are they what we think they are, especially given how, and you and I talked about this in Atlanta, how A&M looked against South Carolina. All these different things, right, where I just think there's some interesting matchups. Now, is Ole Miss going to have problems on Saturday with Tulane? No way, okay? At least not in my opinion. The Miami thing, probably not either, because Carson Beck's playing quarterback for Miami. I have my own thoughts on that. But I'm interested to hear your opinion on it.
Okay, I'll start with Ole Miss, and I'll say this. I think no one's going to get off to a better start and bury a team faster than Ole Miss, because I think that they are playing with the biggest chip on their shoulder imaginable because of all the stuff that's happened with Lane Kiffin, all that kind of stuff. Cannot wait to see Lane tweet out congratulations during the game and after. That's going to be fun. He's down here next to me like a stone's throw away over here in Baton Rouge, but of course he's apparently the biggest Ole Miss fan in the country right now. I do think it'll be interesting with Ole Miss because I think Ole Miss is like America's team right now where everyone's going to be pulling for Ole Miss. And that's tough to do against a G5 team. I think they come out. I think the first half line is like 8.5. Hammer that. I think they 16.5 on the total, or the main spread. I think it's like 17.5. I would probably buy a point. But I would take them in that too. I think they'll win. I think they'll win convincingly. Now, the only thing I would get worried about for Ole Miss is this leadership. Not saying anything bad about Pete Golding. But it's his first game as a head coach, and it's on the biggest stage. So if something happens in the fourth quarter where they need a go-to call on 4th and 3, or they need a go-to call defensively on 3rd and short, like, I think this is a guy that I think is great, to be very clear. I think is great. I'm very excited for him. It's also a guy I watched drop Will Anderson in pass coverage multiple times in 2022. So it's like a guy that has a tendency to overthink some things sometimes. So I wonder about that.
Mm-hmm.
A&M's in trouble. A&M, what sucks about the A&M Miami game is this. Whoever loses that game is going to have a season that's a great season. For A&M, the best season they've had probably since 1939, or at least 2012. And then Miami, the best season they've had in a very, very long time. And you're gonna have either one of those teams and seasons deduced to low-hanging fruit jokes on social media about, well, A&M can't win the big one, Miami can't, they should have never been there. Like, all those things are going to be played no matter what the score is of the game. I think this is the best game of the weekend. I think it's screaming for like a 34-30 type game. I was with you about the Carson Beck thing until I looked up like any of the numbers. And even though it's a Mike Elko defense and a very talented A&M team altogether, most of their talent is all on offense. And then on defense, it's mainly in the front 7. Not saying they aren't talented in the back half, but it's pretty tough to go play 12 games in a season and only register 3 interceptions. Like, that's almost impossible. The fact that Carson Beck is going to be involved in this game, and where he sometimes, not sometimes, a lot of times stumbled in his last couple of years, is in their biggest moments. And I think that's definitely in play. I think Mario Cristobal, you have to call into question some of his decision-making, what he might be able to do. I'm still personally not over what he did against Georgia Tech a couple years ago when he refused to take a knee, and then they ended up losing in horrible fashion. Like, I think that he will tighten up when it comes to like the game on the line. I think Miami's going to come out guns blazing, win the first half, and then A&M is going to come out in the second half, I think, and end up winning the game very close. But I'm telling you right now, like, A&M is I told you this at halftime of the game in Atlanta. I wanted A&M so bad as a Bama guy. Like, I wanted A&M so much more than anyone else in the conference. They could have, especially always Georgia, anybody but Georgia. But I would have especially taken A&M because I think they're a bit of a paper tiger in terms of who they've beaten. And I think when you get to the postseason, it's so important to be able to get there for sure. But there's also something really to be said about knowing who the F you are going into the postseason and knowing what you're made of, being able to win games in crunch time. And there's a lot of teams, Ohio State included, and then I think also this A&M team, who I don't know if they know who they are because they haven't been challenged by enough teams. And when they have been challenged, they got beat. And so I think A&M wins behind a crowd that, Miami is used to playing in front of like whatever, like a Publix parking lot. It usually would be on a busy Saturday. It's not a very big stadium. This is going to be 102,000 people, I think, that will will them to victory. I think it's going to be a very close game. Yeah,
there's a lot of interesting parts about the Miami piece, right? And you bring up a lot of it. The Cristobal thing is very, very real. He is very prone to screw things up all by himself. I think the other interesting thing about this iteration of the Hurricanes is, dude, they didn't leave Miami but 3 times, or didn't leave the state of Florida but 3 times the entire season. Just not
had an ankle monitor on them all year.
This will undoubtedly be the toughest road environment they've played in. You play at SMU, at Virginia Tech, at Pitt. Like, I mean, whatever, all right? This will be a different animal. Here's the thing, though, with Carson, right? And this is the drum I've been beating for a long time, is that if they protect him Saturday, he's going to have a great game. He will. If he doesn't get happy feet and doesn't get moved off schedule, he'll hit you all day, all right? He has as good an arm and can place the ball and layer the ball as good as anybody in the country when he's not freaking out. All right.
Right.
If they put some pressure on him and get him off schedule, he's going to be like Rude Baker in Major League 2, brother. He's going to have the yips so quick. He's going to need a Fredericks of Hollywood so he can start making throws, or else he's going to be throwing interceptions left and right. And that's just how he is. All right.
Yeah.
And I say all that to say this, like, they probably have top 3 guys I've liked watching this year. Malachi Toney is must-see TV. Like, that
awesome.
dude is capital R real. Like, he is unbelievable. And so I think he's an X factor in this. On the flip side of that, and you talked about it, dude, A&M's offensive guys are awesome. Like, Casey Concepcion is outstanding. And then Marcel Reed, if they can keep him protected, is outstanding. Coach's kid, like, love watching him play. I'm with you. This feels like an offensive type game to me. Weird start, though, right? 11 a.m. local.
Right.
Like, the boys aren't even going to be ginned up yet at the tailgate.
No. And they got to be out till midnight the night before. You might as well just figure out a way to stay up. I mean, that's a tough. That's one thing that sucks too. And I'm not going to get on this soapbox. I've already gotten on way too many during the show today. But I mean, that's one thing that pisses me off with this, with the whole thing with the playoff, is that like this should be college football's moment to shine. And the fact that the NFL is playing games, watchable games at the same time is so disheartening. The fact that some of these games are on TNT, no offense to TNT, it's just like it's like they're still trying to figure out how to make the college football playoff like doable or likable or marketable, which is so stupid because this thing was so good for 150 years. And then we just kept like trying to figure out like, but what if we made it even worse? And you're like, no. You should be doing the other thing. Make it better. And they're like, no. But we can make more money if we have it on this channel. And it's just like, that part bums me out. But so this being at 11 a.m., that sucks because it's going to be an incredible atmosphere, as you and I both know. It should be an incredible atmosphere under the lights. Like that's what it should be. Like brunch with the Ducks. Like that's what you should have done. We're moving games around because we're so worried that like the Pac-12 or Pac-12 that's bad. But like the Pacific Coast time of having Oregon play it at 9 a.m., which is probably not doable. You know what? You know who is? Probably Ole Miss. Probably could have had Ole Miss play at 11 a.m., then Oregon at 2:30, and then this be the night games. That part to me just kind of sucks, but it's just something, whatever. It's going to be a great day of football.
Yeah, man, I'm fired up about it, and we won't talk about it, but I am also very fired up. 2 FCS semis that day, including one of my favorite rivalries in all of college football, Brawl of the Wild in Bozeman, 125th meeting, first time ever that Montana and Montana State meet in the playoffs. And it's for a chance to go to the dance. So it is going to be wild at Bobcat Stadium.
Got to be a snow
Saturday.
game.
So if you need a little...
The moment you said there was a big game in the FCS, I knew it had to be either a Dakota or a Montana. You know, let me say this. Yeah. This is something I'll get on. We don't need 2 Dakotas. It is the epitome of American greed. We could use 1 Dakota. I would use 2 Montanas. Montana seems great. Let's definitely double Montana.
Oh, my God. If I clipped that and posted that, the people would be coming out of the woodworks for my boy.
That's because they don't live in real homes. They live in South Dakota in little cabins. Of course they'd be coming out of the woodwork, Seth.
I tell you what, this has been I probably have not shared this with you, but my proposal is why are we making this more complicated than it needs to be, okay?
Yeah.
FCS has been doing this spectacularly for many, many years. Let's just mimic it, please. Also, let's play college football on college campuses. It works great. Like, tune in Saturday. You're going to see it in Bozeman. It's awesome. Like,
it's also, I mean, it's going to happen in 4 campuses around the country already. It's like, if you're at least play the first 2 rounds on campus.
Yes.
The teams that are like 1 through 4, it's awesome they got there, but can you imagine what it would be like New Year's Eve in Athens? New Year's Eve in Athens, Georgia. Could you? Dude, I would buy every bit of stock imaginable for that.
God, that's a great point. Yeah, they've got to figure that part out, and I know they're hand-wringing and all this crap about the bowls and X, Y, and Z and whatever. But you're right, man. Could you imagine these college campuses? Dude, Bloomington, same way. Like, look, man, if you were on Kirkwood New Year's Eve or New Year's Day at Nick's English Hut or Upstairs Pub and then going to see the Hoosiers play at Memorial Stadium, like, come on, man. It'd be incredible.
I didn't get any of those references besides the last one, but yeah, I'm in.
Look, Bloomington right up your alley, brother. Anytime you want to go, you let me know. I'll roll with you.
I honestly might do that next year. We might have to do a trip because I think that Indiana, as much as a hard time as I've given them about their schedule last 2 years, what an incredible job. They've been great. So
yeah, they've been outstanding. Well, look, I appreciate you coming on today. Appreciate you spending time with us. Before we let you go, tell everybody how they can support you.
I think you said I cut out, but I think you said where they could find me. Vern_Funquist on Twitter. Again, sports.net, writing articles every day. And then we have the Fourth and Wrong podcast, Locked on Gamecocks podcast, and then ESPN 104.5 over here in Baton Rouge.
Look, Chris, one of our favorites. Always good to see you. Keep doing everything you're doing. Keep being a big light for the world, brother. It's always good talking
Thanks,
ball
brother.
with you.